All right, so ready to dive into a career path perfect for all you nature lovers out there, becoming a countryside officer. If you've ever dreamt of protecting beautiful landscapes and getting people excited about the outdoors, well, this deep dive is for you.
It really is a career for those who love the environment. And luckily for us, we've got this super in-depth guide from RoleCatcher to break it all down. Everything from what it's really like day to day to all those skills you'll need to really succeed.
And seriously, this guide is seriously comprehensive. They pack it with all those insider details that make such a difference. We're talking career progression, what to expect in interviews, the whole nine yards.
Yeah, it's easy to get caught up in that, well, kind of romantic idea of just being surrounded by nature all the time. And look, don't get me wrong, that's a huge part of what makes this job so appealing. But this guide's great because it balances that out by really diving into the practical side of things, too. We're talking physical work, working with communities, all the planning that countryside officers do every single day.
So it's not just like enjoying leisurely walks through fields, although I'm sure those happen sometimes too. We're also talking about like one day you're out there clearing a trail and the next you're leading an educational program for a bunch of kids.
You've got it. And that's actually a perfect example of why continuous learning is so important in this field, which the guide talks about a lot. You could be giving advice to a farmer one day on eco-friendly practices and then adapting a whole conservation strategy the next because, I don't know, a rare bird species is losing its habitat or something. It's a field that really forces you to keep up with the constantly changing world around us.
That's what makes it so interesting though, right? Speaking of keeping things interesting, let's jump into the skills you need. I mean, we could just list them off, but where's the fun in that? This guide actually made me realize how many transferable skills this job uses.
For sure. Have you ever noticed that you're the one all your friends go to when they need something explained in a clear way? You're like the go-to explainer? Well, that natural teaching talent, let me tell you, it's incredibly valuable in this field.
That's so true. And what about people who just love maps? You know, those who are fascinated by how landscapes actually work. Even better, Rollcatcher talks about geography as this key knowledge area, and when you think about it, it makes perfect sense.
Everything's connected,
Yeah.
literally. Picture yourself designing a brand new nature trail, and you have to make sure it's accessible to everyone, but you also want to minimize any impact on the environment, right? Or maybe you're assessing how erosion is affecting a certain area. You need that deep understanding of the land.
It's like almost like you're a detective.
Yeah.
But for nature, okay, let's shift gears a bit and talk about career trajectory, because who doesn't want to know about moving up in a job? Rollcatcher lays out three clear stages. You've got entry level, then junior, and then senior countryside officer. Each obviously comes with more and more responsibility, but it's more than just climbing a ladder, isn't it?
Right. What I find really interesting is how your actual role changes at each stage. So at that entry level, you're mainly assisting, learning from more experienced people in the field. As you become a junior officer, you're trusted to manage certain areas all on your own. You're making those decisions that have a direct impact on the environment. But it's when you reach that senior level that things really shift, I think.
You're not just managing, you're leading. I love how the guide gives real-life examples. Like one was about a senior countryside officer getting funding for a huge habitat restoration project,
Yeah.
or another leading a team to put this new sustainability plan into action. It makes it so much more, well, real.
Yeah, it shows just how far you can go. You can start with super hands-on work and end up influencing policy and inspiring a whole new generation of people who care about protecting the environment. Which actually brings us to a really important point that comes up in the guide. How you interview.
And the best part, they don't just leave you hanging. They link to sample interview questions, which is so helpful for anyone getting ready for the real thing. But, and I found this really refreshing, these aren't your typical, tell me your strengths and weaknesses kind of questions.
No, not at all. These questions are laser focused on the skills you actually need to be a great countryside officer. One that really stood out to me was all about balancing conservation needs with what the community actually wants. And that's where those kind of diplomacy skills come into play.
It's a tough balance for sure.
Mhm.
You might have people who are super passionate about protecting one specific habitat, while others want to be able to, I don't know, use that same land for recreation. Finding common ground means understanding both the ecological side and what the community actually thinks and needs.
And being willing to really listen, learn, and adapt. Remember how we were talking about continuous learning before? Well, it's not just about staying updated on the latest science. It's about understanding how public opinion changes, new policies, all the things that affect how we manage our natural resources.
It's almost like you're not just managing, the land itself, but also everyone's expectations of it. You're kind of like this bridge between all these different people who care about this land,
Mm.
which, reminds me of something else I really liked about RoleCatcher's approach. They didn't just focus on the technical stuff, which is obviously important, but they really get that being a countryside officer is just as much about people as it is about, well, plants and animals.
Exactly. And that actually makes me think of another one of those sample interview questions they gave. It was something like, how would you stay up to date on changing environmental policies and regulations? It's interesting because it's kind of a sneaky way of seeing if you're truly dedicated to staying ahead of the game. That whole continuous learning thing we keep coming back to.
Totally. Because policies affect everything, right? From how you manage the land to how much funding you get for conservation projects. And a good countryside officer has to be able to adapt no matter what those policies are. Okay, I think we've covered a lot, but there's one more thing from the guide I really wanted to point out. Those example profiles they give for each career stage.
Oh, those are so good. It's one thing to read some boring job description, right? But to actually see how real people built these amazing careers doing this, super inspiring.
Right, like I can totally imagine myself 5 years from now. Maybe I'm not just keeping those trails clear anymore. Maybe I'm designing a whole visitor experience, something that makes people really appreciate this one-of-a-kind ecosystem. Or maybe I'm working with local businesses to make tourism more sustainable.
It makes those career dreams feel a lot more real. Like you can see the impact you could actually have. And that actually connects to a bigger point I hope you're picking up on. This isn't just a job, It's a whole career path with tons of room to grow.
And that growth isn't just about getting a fancier title or a bigger paycheck. It's about becoming a leader in a field that genuinely matters. It's about always learning and getting better so you can tackle all the challenges our environment is facing.
It's being a lifelong student of nature, which actually brings us to something really important that the guide kind of hints at throughout. It's not just about knowing how to do the job, it's about understanding why it matters to you. That personal connection you have, that goes way beyond just liking to spend time outdoors.
It's about that deep down feeling that protecting nature is important and wanting other people to feel that too. It's about knowing these amazing landscapes need to be here for generations to come and doing something about it.
Because even those small things you do can have a huge ripple effect. Imagine working with, I don't know, a group of landowners and helping them farm more sustainably. You're not only helping their land, but you're also protecting the water downstream and creating habitats for wildlife.
It's about seeing those connections, how doing something in one place affects the whole system. Which, let's be honest, isn't always easy, is it? There are going to be these complicated environmental problems, different people who want different things, and you probably won't always have all the resources you want.
Being resilient and resourceful is definitely key, but honestly, those challenges are also what makes this job so rewarding. I mean, you must have a bit of a problem-solving personality if this field appeals to you, right?
Absolutely. You have to thrive on that mix of scientific knowledge, actually getting your hands dirty, and truly believing that we can make a difference. Speaking of making a difference, it's worth pointing out, this RoleCatcher guide isn't all sunshine and rainbows, is it? They actually get into some of the tougher aspects of this job, too.
You're right. They're very upfront about the fact that getting funding for conservation projects can be a real battle, that sometimes you have to have tough conversations with people to protect the environment, and that the work itself can be physically demanding.
And I like that they're so honest and transparent. They're not trying to sugarcoat it. You get all the information you need to figure out if this is really the right path for you.
I think that's so important. It's great to be passionate about the environment, but it's that down-to-earth understanding of what you'll actually be doing day in and day out, that ability to stick with it even when things get tough, that's what's going to make you successful in this career.
Okay, so we've talked about the passion, the skills you need, what your career might look like, even how to rock those interviews. But before we wrap up, we have to talk about the actual tools and resources that can help you on your journey. And who better to turn to than RoleCatcher themselves?
It's like they knew we were going to say that. Seriously, though, we can talk about how awesome this career path is all day, but actually landing your dream job, that's a whole other thing. And that's where RoleCatcher's platform really shines. It goes way beyond just information.
I know, right? It's really impressive. I mean, we've talked about how detailed their career guides are, but they also have this whole job board that's laser focused on these specific types of roles. So you don't have to waste time on those generic job sites. that are full of stuff you don't even care about.
Right. Total time saver. And remember how important the guide said getting that real-world experience is. Well,
Yeah.
get this. RoleCatcher's platform can even help you find internships and volunteer positions, the kind that will really make your application stand out.
It's like they're helping you connect all the dots every step of the way. And actually, speaking of connecting dots, have you seen their AI-powered tools? Seriously, next level stuff. Their CV and resume analysis tool is a game changer.
Oh, I know. It's not just about making it look pretty, This AI really gets in there and analyzes everything. It compares your skills and your work experience to actual countryside officer job descriptions, then gives you suggestions like maybe it'll tell you to highlight a project where you were in charge of something or emphasize your experience with a certain type of conservation software. It's all about those little details that can really give you an edge.
So smart. So you're not just sending out the same application everywhere and hoping for the best. You're being strategic about it, which is amazing. And here's the best part. You can use a lot of these features totally free. You can tell that RoleCatcher really cares about helping people find jobs, not just making money.
Love that. It's about making information and resources available to everyone. Which actually brings us back to you, our amazing listeners. We've spent this whole deep dive exploring what it's really like to be a countryside officer, the skills you'll need, what your career might look like, even how to nail those interviews. But as we wrap things up, I want to leave you with one last thought.
I always love this part, that aha moment that you carry with you even after the episode is over.
Exactly. We've covered the how-to part in detail, but it's the why that's going to keep you going in this field. Why is protecting nature important to you personally? What kind of impact do you see yourself having as a countryside officer?
What kind of mark do you want to leave on the places you're taking care of? I know these are big questions, but they're worth really thinking about as you start this journey. It's that passion for nature, that commitment to taking care of it, that's really going to fuel you and make you successful.
And who knows, maybe someday you'll be the one inspiring a whole new group of countryside officers with your own story. But until then, never stop exploring, keep learning, and let that passion for our planet shine through.